my friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be putting together my June TBR. Now, once again, sorry for the awkward filming angle. I am considering relocating this shelf just because this angle is kind of so difficult to work with. If you're unfamiliar, my TBR shelf is right inside the doorway to my bedroom, so there's really like no good angle I can get. But that being said, for my June TBR, we are reverting to using the TBR prompt jar. And that is because even though the random number generator did a much better job than I have done in choosing my TBR, I do have some videos planned this month where I need to take those into account when building my TBR. So I am going to be reading the second half of the Boys of Tommen series this month. I also plan on reading some new releases, so I'm going to use my TBR jar in the hopes that some of the prompts in here can apply towards those books, and so we can still kind of draw, but also plot. You know what I mean? So without further ado, let us get started. I'm going to pull a slip, and of course you guys get to see first. Hopefully that is right side up. A book you think you will rate 5 stars. This is perfect because I am hoping to do a books I think will be 5 stars vlog. So actually, I think I'm going to go with A Floating World by Axio. I have loved every single thing I have read by Axio. I have read ASAP, XOXO, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and I have loved every single one. So I do not have it in my hands yet because it's coming in my May Fairy Loot box, which of course won't arrive until the first week of June. But that is a book I think I will give 5 stars to. So there is our first pick. Here is our second. Struggling. There we go. The first book of a duology. Wow, I really did not like myself with this one. See, I have options. I have so many options, but none of them are like wonderfully tempting. I have a second book in a duology. Would love to read that. Could I argue that Bookshops and Bone Dust is the first book in a duology? Because I read Legends and Lattes, but it kind of depends on if you go in publication order or in chronological order. But that feels like cheating. First book in a duology. This is the first book, but I don't know if it's a duology or if there will be more. That's a trilogy. That's a trilogy. That's a full-on series. That's a trilogy. I think it's cheating even if I say oh, what if I did a first, a series where there's only one book out so far. What about The Wrath and the Dawn? This is a duology. Okay, I think I'm going to go with The Wrath and the Dawn. And this book follows a girl seeking vengeance after her friend is victim to the caliph of her country. So we're going to go with this. That's book 2. All right. Then we have a book that fits the current season. So it is kind of spring, kind of summer at this point. And I'm not sure. A book that fits the current season. Actually, that's easy. Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. Ready or Not, her other book, ended up on my May TBR. So let's go with Promise Me Sunshine. This feels appropriately spring, summer-y. And it is about Oh, this sounds a little dark. Grieving the loss of her best friend, a young woman finds her life turned upside down when she meets a grumpy stranger who swears he can help her live again. By the beloved author of Ready or Not. So, 'tis a romance, and it sounds like there's some real world-ish going on there. So let us pick book number 4, which will be a book from Kindle Unlimited. Okay, I already know what I'm picking here. A Touch of Poison. So that is the second book in the Shadows of the Tenebrous Court series. I picked the first book up in my reading Kindle Unlimited for a weekend, and I loved A Kiss of Iron. I gave it 5 stars. I am 10% of the way into A Touch of Poison, but I know that I'm not going to be able to get to any more of it before the end of the month. So I am going to be adding A Touch of Poison to my June TBR. Then brings us to our next prompt. I believe that is upside down, which is a book with an even number of pages. So that is a great. See, this is a problem about wanting to put new releases on your reads for the month is there is no way to know for sure what the page count is. I suppose I could look it up. Is that cheating? Let's look it up.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
So I can't do Rewind It Back because it is 491 pages, and that's what I was hoping. But I can do The Night and the Moth. According to Goodreads, that is 400 pages. So we are adding The Night and the Moth to my TBR. And of course, like I said, I don't have it because that is the Fairy Loot adult pick for June. And of course, no book box yet. But let us draw again. Okay. A book with less than 300 pages. Okay, I have an immediate candidate in mind. I think that The Spare is 322 pages. That's just rude. What about God Killer? That one might be short enough. Also, did I choose Rewind It Back for a book I think I'm going to give 5 stars to? No, I gave that to A Floating World. Jeez. This is what happens when you don't keep track of what you're talking about. Ooh, I think 288 pages. I don't know if you guys can see that. But here we go. A book that is less than 300 pages. All right. Let us draw again. Okay. A book a friend recommended. So honestly, I cannot tell you how many times the Six of Crows duology has been recommended to me by just everyone. Not just friends, but also BookTube and just all that stuff. So I think I read Six of Crows in my most recent. No, I read Six of Crows in my 24-hour readathons, and I am dying to find out how it ends. So we will be adding the Crooked Kingdom to my TBR for the month. And like I said, this is the second book following the Six of Crows, and it's kind of about the aftermath of, their heist. So I think that brings us to, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got A Touch of Poison, A Floating World, and The Night and the Moth. So we are on 7 books. So let's keep going. I feel like I have to refill my prompt jar soon. All right. Oop, we have an escapee. That's going to be upside down. Tell already. There we are. A book with a number in the title. Okay, that is perfect. That is perfect. So I am in the last week of this month reading the first 3 books of the Binding 13 or the Boys of Tommen series. And then I will be reading the next 3 books. So I'm doing a Boys of Tommen reading blog. I know I've talked about doing it, but we're officially doing it. And I'm reading the first half of the series in the last week of May, and the second half of the series in the first week of June. So in that case, I'm breaking my 3D puzzle. Did you fall apart? No, you didn't. Okay, that's good. Or maybe did your tail fall off? Your tail fell off. Lord. I did learn my lesson from last time and I put the other 3D puzzle up, but I like to do puzzles when I'm stressed, so this is perfect. Did I break something else that I shouldn't have? It broke off. Oh my God. Or no, okay. I'm being an idiot. Okay. So we're just going to kind of say the second half of the Boys of Tommen series. So that will be it for that prompt. We are on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 prompts. So let's do 2 more and call it quits. Especially since I've been able to work in most of the books I was hoping to work in. All right. We're going to be reading the shortest book on your TBR. I honestly have no idea. And to be honest, I'm too lazy to find out right now. So we're just going to redraw. I know it's cheating, but honestly, I really don't want to have to dig through and figure it out. All right. We've got a classic. Maybe I should have gone for the shortest book on my TBR, but I have one right here. As you guys might have heard me mention in my in a couple of videos, I have my mom pick out a classic for me to read every year. And last year she picked out Great Expectations for me, and I got started and never finished it. So here is the classic I will be reading this month. And we're going to do one more prompt and then we're done. All right, last book will be... That is upside down. There we go. A non-fantasy / no romance fiction. I know myself so well. You guys know I'm a big fantasy and romance reader. So I've just been banned from my 2 favorite genres. Okay, so obviously none of these, none of those, none of the first stack, that has romance in it. Actually, you know what? I know what I'm going to pick. So this was a book that my mom suggested to me. And it's... Excuse me. And it's been turned into a TV show that is supposedly very good, but it is Slow Horses by Mick Herron. So this is about a kind of washed up group of MI6 agents, MI5 agents. So basically a group of spies who have kind of peaked in their careers and now they've kind of been shuttled off to less important assignments. And they decide to get together to basically form a team and redeem themselves after someone is kidnapped and threatened on live television. So that is our final book for my June TBR. These are, of course, the physical copies I will be reading. And then actually, I should add these to the pile. So we'll try that again. Here are all the physical books on my TBR for the month of June. We've got Slow Horses, Great Expectations, Crooked Kingdom, God Killer, Promise Me Sunshine, The Wrath and the Dawn, Redeeming 6, and Taming 7. And then we also have A Floating World by Axio, A Touch of Poison by Claire Sager, The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, and Unleashed 10 by Chloe Walsh, I think. Am I missing anything? If I'm missing anything, I'll pop it up right there. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to stick around for a while, please subscribe. Either way, I appreciate you watching. Have a good day. Bye.